Wave everybody and welcome back. Well, as you can see, we're in the workshop. We've got lights and stuff, so that's all been fixed. Still haven't got the car back. God knows what's going on there. Well, the Honda had the Jag service and stuff for the year since the snow was finally gone and the salt off the roads. You know, I was going to a Jag place that was recommended that was very expensive, and it's raining as well. And last couple of times I was there, I wasn't particularly happy with them. So again, I'm going to say I don't know if I told you this, but I might have. And then I got talking to a fellow one day, and he'd had a Jag like mine, an XA6, and he said, take it to Scotty's, he's the Jag expert. Well, Scotty's is this like sort of ramshackle place with 50 old cars standing outside. So I go down there, and sure enough, he is, and his son's restoring ground up an XGS. So I took it there. I think I mentioned before that the cold start system wasn't working properly. There's an extra injector in the manifold and a little thermo switch, and when it's below a certain temperature you get that extra injector working. Well, that was one of the things I taken to the other place about, and they tested the injector and did this, did that, did all sorts. Charged me a fortune. He lifted up the bonnet and said, it's got an aftermarket relay there. That's the one that works the starter circuit and that injector. It'll never work with that there, so there you go. Anyway, it's back, everything's fine. I've started it a couple of mornings. It's been cold here, where it's only been like around freezing, 30 degrees, 32 degrees, and it starts to treat. So anyway, that's that. What else? I started doing the frame, drained all the paraffin out of it, all the kerosene out, and bit by bit with wire brushes, which has sort of got me like that. I did it for a couple of hours this morning and I knocked off. It's so nice when you just take it for the sandblast when he does it. But as I say, I didn't want to risk that because of it being oil frame. Anyway, I'm about 90% along with that, so I'll just do a bit each day. Frame is all I've got to paint. All the other bits are done. Oh, prop stand. But apart from that, footrests, all the bits and pieces, they're all done, swinging out. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do the engine starting today. Got a couple of hours this afternoon, so we'll get stuck in with that. I think Steam Shop is back, so within a couple of days I'll go down and make sure he's all settled in, and I'll take that barrel and we'll get that rebored, and then I'll finish the engine off, and by then I should have the frame painted so we can start our final assembly. And then we've got to think of other projects. So anyway, let's go over and have a look, see the little bits that I've done already with starting the engine rebuild. Right, well, so as you can see, you know, I haven't got much further forward than I was when we were last down this end of the workshop. Hopefully I'm in frame. But one thing I did get is got my saddle. Not cheap, but actually, as I mentioned, the price of a cover and foam was only about $20 less than getting this one sort of hand done, and he does a really nice job. So that's all ready to go. Now then, I've been cleaning these because the bearings were so good. I didn't want to bead blast it because that would have meant taking the bearings out, and it's come up quite nicely. So one thing I am going to have to do, as you may know, both from the BSAs and the Triumphs, in here where the lay shaft goes in, the lay shaft goes in the end of the kickstart hole where there's a needle bearing, and there's a needle bearing at the back. Well, there's a couple of little dips and piece things in here, so I've given it all a good clean out, and I'm blowing bits out, and when I blow it that way, it blew all the needles out the needle bearing. So I have to change that. So I've got another one. So what we're going to do first of all is change that. So we're going to use the little extractor thing that I made some time ago, and we'll warm that up to get it out. So let's do that first. Right, well, so here is our tool. What it is, this part of it, the bolt, is a concrete anchor. Down inside there's a wedge. You drill your hole in the concrete, pop that in, well, pop it in that way of course. When you wind the bolt in, the wedge forces these apart. So all I've done is I put a lip on it. I think I did it just with a file actually, so that when I squeezed that wedge up into there, it's actually a tapered pin really rather than a wedge, but it forces these four pieces, these four segments out. They'll grip the bearing, and then the other end we've got a slide hammer. So we'll put that in there. I did this I think for the Triumphs, and I've got a feeling their bearing is bigger because this only just goes in. So I put the little arm on, as you can see there, because I found I needed to stop that from turning. Right, so that's nice and tight. Let me find something. Just leave it out a bit so it'll come out. Alright, I'm also going to warm this up. Right, let's see how we... Obviously not in there tight enough. You know, just after we got the power put on, the power company sent a tree team along to take down some of the branches that we've been here 16 years. Nobody's ever been to do the trees where the power lines go. And their machine destroyed one of my lawns, and they've left great big piles of brush and stuff. So I'm just on the phone to them to get them back, to get the place cleaned up. Now the Triumph one, of course, is a sealed bearing, so that hole is drilled all the way through. This, it isn't. And there it is. So, also this one doesn't have the little pin and the thrust washer, so we're going to use a drift to put the new bearing back in, but we'll move over there for that. Right, I've got this set up ready. I'm going to heat it up, and then I already have a proper drift to knock it in with. Something I should mention, just so you don't get confused. I said that it didn't have a thrust washer like the Triumph. It doesn't have a thrust washer like the Triumph, because that, as I say, goes on the pin and it's got grooves in for oil. It does, however, have a thrust washer, right, which goes on there. The only thing to note about this is the inside diameter is chamfered on one side, and the chamfer goes towards the gear. Alright, so I didn't want you jumping up and down saying there is a thrust washer. Yes, there is a thrust washer, but it's not one like the Triumph. So let me warm this up and then we'll drift this bearing in. Right, let's see if that's hot enough. I'll put a little bit of grease on the inside of this so it doesn't fall off the drift. I've got a different drift to finish it off, just to make sure that it goes in. Nice level with the casing, which this one does. You remember the Triumph one, the drift has like a little collar so that it goes down, so that the bearing sticks up a little bit for that thrust washer thing to go around it, if you follow my meaning. Anyway, let's let that cool down. Well, I was just getting ready to video putting the crank into the cases, and it suddenly struck me I hadn't cleaned the what do you call it, the sludge trap out. So I've taken the plug out. Now the thing here, of course, is that you see me do this with the B25s and with Triumph Twins, but they have shell bearings for the big ends, so we can take the conrod off, we can take the shells off really easily. And when we're cleaning this out, we can blow from the big end, from the crank pin itself, to get it nice and clear. This has got a good big end. I'm not going to split the crank and all the rest of it to do that. So what I've done, don't know, can you see all this rubbish here? This is what's coming out. As you can see, I've got it pointed down. There wasn't all that much. So I'll clean it out and clean it out. And then when I think I've got all the solid stuff out, I'm going to get, which of course I don't have at the moment, an aerosol of carburetor cleaner with a long spout on. Put the spout right up into the top and then clean it out so that it comes out this way. And then we'll pump some oil through from here. Well, hang on. We'll pump some oil through from here to make sure it comes out. Again, keeping it this way up, we'll get it to flush out. So we'll put carb cleaner in there as well. But first of all, I want to get it to wash out this way, and then we'll wash it out that way. And then when we put the plug back in, we'll oil here and make sure we get oil coming out of the big end. All right, so I'll finish clearing this out and put it to one side so it doesn't fall off the bench, which would be good, wouldn't it? And get on with this bloody frame. Right, now, you know I don't like you to worry about things. So you'll remember that when I took the oil pump off, the worm drive part on this shaft had stripped. So I got another one, but I had a comment that mentioned that maybe the gears had stripped because this shaft was bent. So I've got the pump apart. If I can do this without it moving around. Right, that's on one. Okay, now we're going to come up to the flat. There's the flat. There we are on one. There's the flat. I've moved it. There we are on one again. So that shaft is perfectly straight, so don't anybody lose any sleep over it. Right, well, so while we're waiting for me to go out and get some carb cleaner, I've got the rocker box and the head to put together. So, rocker box, slightly different setup than the somebody out for a run, than the B25. You remember the B25's got, for some unknown reason, the eccentrically mounted shafts. This is your standard lock nut thing. Alright, so also one of the differences with here is we have got a valve lifter for the exhaust valve. So there's an O-ring that goes in there, which I've put in. So this is the exhaust side. I don't know if you can see the valve lifter goes in there. Now also that makes a difference to these. Right, this is the exhaust one, and this is the inlet. See, the exhaust's got this extra bit on, and it's actually marked. Well, when I say marked, there is a mark on it where the little, where is it? That goes on there, you see. And when you twist it, it pushes that, lifts the exhaust valve a bit. So, let's see, what have we got? So we've got our shaft, which has an O-ring on it. Then that's going to go in that way. So that's for the push rod, and there's the valve stem. We have got one large, it's another one of those instances with different size holes. There'll be one large washer there, then the rocker goes on. Then there is a washer with large diameter which goes on there, because you can see this is stepped. Then we have a Thackeray washer. See, I remembered this time. It's amazing how many things I don't remember the name for, and then as soon as somebody mentions it I think, oh yeah, I knew that. Old age, I suppose. Then there's a washer with the right ID for the smaller end. Okay, so we'll oil everything up, and then we'll push things through. Now, hang on, let me switch you off, because I'm probably going to need a pair of tweezers or something. Okay, I've zoomed you in a little bit, and hopefully I'll keep you in frame. I've got some needle nose pliers for getting a grip on these washers and things. And now, of course, I don't have my oil. I just brought it over. What the hell have I done with that? There it is. Okay. So, pump. Right, so we've put some oil in there. So we'll put this in, and we put up our large diameter washer there. We'll pop that in. Not a lot of space. Right, then that goes in there. That is going to go in there. You've got to fiddle around with these washers and stuff to get them over that first step. So let me just use the end of the other one, because I'm not going to be able to use the end of the other one. I'll have to get something. I'm only going to show you me putting one in. Well, hopefully you're going to see one going in. That hasn't worked. You may remember I made a piece up for the Triumph ones, but they were a bit more awkward, because there we had two rockers on the one shaft. Because this is ow. There it goes. Right now. And this end, hang on. Right, that was just George coming in. Okay. So, choo. Come on now, be a good boy. Let's get him in without that. God, this is a tight fit on these. There it goes. Because you can't actually see it going in there, but And if you look in that end, well, you can't look in that end, but you can look in and see where the washers are. That one wants to come up a bit. Hang on, let's get my US Air Force knife out, which looks spectacular, and usually, you know, sort of military stuff is good. The steel of this blade is terrible. I mean, I'm forever sharpening it. Gets more use like this for prying things than it does for cutting things. I was just thinking there, you watch, I'll slip and cut the end of my finger off while you're all watching. Yeah. Hang on again! I hate it when this happens because it's got to be boring for you to watch me struggling. But invariably when I turn it off, it sort of slips into place immediately. But I am going to turn it off because this is going to be fiddly. Right, as I said, tapped it with a screwdriver through there and it just popped into place. And there's that through there. So that's it. I think that's going to go in a bit more. Anyway, that works fine. I'll pump some more oil through. And look at where the little hole is there. I think that's going to go in a bit more. I'll tell you what it is, it's that new. I thought that O-ring looked fatter than the one I took off. I might even warm this up actually to tap it in. I'll be able to pull it in with a nut on there. But anyway, let me do the other one and then we'll move on to the cylinder head. Right, well, let's put this head together. Now, I've done this so many times, I'm not going to spend a lot of time over it. If you're really interested in seeing how to do it, almost any of my videos, go back to an early one and I'll have spent more time. But it's really simple. I've already ground in the valves. So let's take, what have we got here? This is the inlet valve. So that's the bigger one, right? So it's going to go in that way. Oh, look at that, I've come over without my oil. Hold on. Right, now we've got everything we need. I've pulled you in a little bit out so you can see more, but I'm probably going to get my hands in the way and all the rest of it. Okay. First thing we're going to do is oil the valve. So it's got a little bit of oil in it to get it started. Alright. The valve guide. Right, that's it. Let me check you still. Yeah. So then we put this piece on, which is the seat for the valve spring. So the valve spring isn't on the soft alloy, it's on a hard metal. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put some grease in to the little groove that holds the collets, or as they're called here, the valve keepers. Right. Then we'll put on our springs. Then we'll put this piece on. Then might go out the frame a little here because it's awkward. Put our valve spring compressor on and just initially take up the pressure. Let me check you again. Moved over a bit. There you go. Now before you put too much pressure on the spring, Make sure you've got this end seated. It's just moved over so you can get the collets in. Right, then we will start compressing the valve spring, making sure the valve spring compression tool doesn't move over too much. You'll find that this will move around because it's not actually on a shaft, it's got a lot of space to move on. So there, hopefully you can see the valve stems appeared. So we put our collets in. There goes one. Get the grease to hold it. Again, I'm a bit cack-handed here because I'm trying to keep out of your line of view. We'll put the other one in. So they're nicely on there. And then we release the spring. And one of them's moved. I'm going to let you into a little secret here. I'm all fingers and thumbs this morning. This is the third time I tried this. Normally it takes me a couple of minutes per valve. But every time they've moved. That's just the chair. I've lost my temper. You would have heard me swearing on the video. Oh God. See, I'm almost getting to cursing now. I really don't know what's going on today. Let's try that. It still hasn't gone in. Come on, you little bugger. Well, I'm not stopping and redoing it again. So now you're just going to see the bad temper, and they really look as if they're in right. Let me take it down a bit more. All right, and there they are, seated in their groove. The last thing you do is you just give them a short tap. You don't get all the handle back here and wallop it, you just give it a tap to seat them. And that is that, right? So I'm going to do the other one exactly, well no, I'm not going to do the other one exactly the same. I'm going to do the other one first time. So let me do that and then we'll go back to putting that crank in. Of course, as expected, the exhaust one went in first time, 2 minutes, job done. Alright, let's go and look at this crank. Right, well, I got the sludge trap cleaned out, put the plug back in with a bit of Loctite on. Oh, bugger, now I've taken the oil can over there. Alrighty ho. I do have more than one oil can, but it's just this one, the nozzle, is better for fitting in the end of things. So, you watch there. I have pumped some oil through because I didn't want to be standing here filling it all up. So, well, actually, you won't see it there, but you can see it there. Look. There it is, right? Oil. So we're coming through nicely into the big end. Alright. Right, well, I've oiled all the bearings. I've put some gasket stuff on that joint. I'll set it over the hole in the bench. in that goes like that, and then that goes, there's my bolt holes, there they are. Like that. God, now, where's my little rubbery hammer? I think that fits all the way through that hole. Maybe it doesn't. Oh, come on. There we go. Right, can you see? Oh, I've got a red thing on me battery. And here we have our nice nuts and bolts. So we'll just put them on. These are, it's a later engine of course, so these are just 5/16 UNF. Alright, seeing as we're running out of battery, let me just tighten this up and then I'll bring you back. So there it is, all bolted up to the two at the back. Well, they're studs that come through, and then these three are bolts that go into there. So these are 5/16 UNC, seeing as they're going into the casing. They've all been tightened up. You might do this without getting in the way. That's nice. So the next thing to do, I think, is okay, we'll put the oil pump on, we'll put the camshaft in, tap the followers, camshaft, put the crankshaft pinion on and the oil pump, and then that's as much as we're going to do. We're not going to put this in because, as I say, I'm trying to save weight and I've got to put the barrel and the head on and the rocker block to be able to get it in the frame. I've where is it? There's the oil pressure release. That's got where is it? See the hole there? It's got like a piston in it. So the oil pressure's on this side. If the oil pressure builds up too much, the piston presses against this spring and uncovers that hole. So that we can put back in. I've cleaned all that out. Okay, so let's put this in its engine stand, I think, and then we'll do the oil pump. Right, well, let's get this part done, and then we'll wait until we've got the barrel. Now, as it happens, Steam Shop has just been and collected the barrel and piston. So everything is underway. Right, let's see, how does that go? That goes on there like thusly. Yeah, all our holes line up. Get round that dowels. Of course, as per usual with gaskets, why do they never, you know, 1/4" bolts, so they put 1/4" holes. The fact that 2 of them have dowels, they never take into account. I need something to poke that with. Yeah. Let's get that over that dowel. There we go. So things are coming along apace. Right. There's our pump. There's our new drive. Lock washer. Goes on there perfectly. Now, I checked and there's actually a torque setting for these 3 nuts, so we'll get all technical and actually torque them down. I think it was what, £5 to £7 or something like that. Not much. Should just use the T-handle to get these on quickly. Never mind. You haven't got anything better to do, have you? It's Sunday evening. I was just looking at the statistics on YouTube, and I see that most of you are still old gadgets like me. So you won't be worrying about going to work tomorrow. There we go. Now let me just check that. Maybe a fraction more, because it actually only goes down to £10, so I've guessed that. Okay, so that's that. And that needs to be tightened up as well. The next thing to go on is that actually we will put these in next. So what's this? Outer. Inner. Now it mentions in the book that this pad, the hard wearing pad, is thicker at one end than the other, and it says to put the thinner end forward. You can barely see the difference, so it would have been much easier to say the two little holes go at the back, but you know, that would be too helpful, wouldn't it? So that one's the inner. It's going to go in there like that. Outer, like the holes to the back. There, like that. Then we have our camshaft. There's a bronze bush in there, so we will oil that. Michael, how about putting it in the right way around? Did everybody spot that? Okay. Right, now then, so there's that. There's the little mark. Now then, I've mentioned this before. You see I've marked this because almost invariably when you put the new lock washer on, it covers the little timing mark. So, I mean, we're fine when we're putting it on like this. Nope, let's push the key out. So let's get ourselves organised better here. That's pushed it up as well. We're having one of those days, people. Perhaps I should put this on first. Oh no, there we go. That's gone on nicely. There we have a nice new lock washer, which goes, this bit goes in the keyway. Actually it would have shown alright with this lock washer, but you can never tell. That goes on there. Like that. Yes, I can still get at that to tighten it up. Hang on a second. Right, well, get in, tighten that up, and then the next thing is to tighten this up. So I've put a piece of alloy through there, 55 foot-pounds it says. £50, you know, £55 rather is a lot. I'm Hang on, I'm going to have to get around the other side if you hold on a second. Okay, try again. God, it is an awful lot. There we go. £55 it is. So we're all set. So there we go. Spot on. So let me turn this tab up. What will we use for that? I've got a big pair of pliers on that. There, I think. There we go. Got it. Alright, so that's as much as we can do. So as I say, Steam Shop's just been taking the piston away because he wanted to work on it before he started on a large, what did he say it was? Kawasaki something? Somebody wants him to put a big bore kit in it, so that'll take him a while because he wasn't sure whether there's new sleeves with it or whether it just gets bored out. But anyway, there we go. Things are moving along. I will get the frame painted and we're really getting close to building it up. So that's it for this week. A proper video for the first time in a while. So you all go off, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.